If you loved Hollow Knight for its clarity and tight execution, think of Silksong as a different instrument from the same orchestra. It asks you to hear more layers, move with sharper intent, and act with cleaner logic. Today, let S build a portable playbook you can bring into Silksong on day one. How to read the screen like a designer, route your progress like a speedrunner without rushing, and refine your decision making so that your hands never argue with your head. Start by upgrading how you read the screen. In a demanding action platformer, the camera is not a window, it is a language. Corners, ledges, and enemy entrances speak in advance of danger. Train yourself to scan in diagonals, bottom left to top right, and the mirror path back. In that sweep, you will catch 3 crucial signals at once: where your next landing zone is, where a threat can invade your space, and where your exit will be if the exchange goes wrong. Sprite poses telegraph intent long before a hitbox appears. A lean forward on a rusher, a raised arm on a zoner, a recoil in an orbiter. These micro poses are free information. If you can narrate them in your head for 2 or 3 encounters, you will start to anticipate without guessing. That shift, anticipation without guesswork, is the point where execution stops feeling frantic and starts feeling deliberate. Next, sort enemies by behavior, not by looks. Most threats you encounter will collapse into a handful of archetypes. Orbiters that circle and test your spacing, rushers that challenge your reaction line, zoners that create denial zones with projectiles or hazards, and interrupters that punish greed by countering a short range. Once you name the archetype you're facing, your plan writes itself. Orbiters are solved by establishing a clean perimeter and forcing them to cross a line you control. Rushers are solved by pre-placing yourself a half step off center and letting them overextend into empty space. Zoners are solved by rhythm, closing distance on their cooldown, then resetting to avoid the second beat. Interrupters are solved by half commits, one safe hit and an immediate exit. This vocabulary helps you handle new areas without feeling new every time. Boss fights benefit from a similar vocabulary. Think in terms of phase deaths and phase gifts. A phase death is a moment when the boss spikes pressure or introduces an attack that taxes your attention more than usual. A phase gift is a repeatable mistake window the boss gives you if you meet a condition: baiting a jump, outranging a lunge, or sidestepping a line attack. Your job is not to discover a perfect pattern. Your job is to identify one debt and one gift per phase. Pay the debt cheaply through space discipline, note health, and cash the gift consistently with safe damage. If you can do those 2 things, you will survive the noise of any flashy transition and stabilize faster after surprises. Resource thinking also changes when the action accelerates. Don't frame success as never getting hit. Frame it as controlling the exchanges that matter. In a fast fight, you will take chip damage. The controllable variable is whether you suspending your attention and position on bad trades or reserving them for windows that flip tempo. Treat every engage as a small investment. What is my entry cost? What is my expected return? And what is my planned exit if the trade goes red? This isn't about caution for its own sake. It's about maximizing the number of clean, low-risk cycles you can execute before fatigue sets in. Exploration rewards method more than bravery. Replace the urge to clear everything with a 3-anchor method for each new room. Mark in your mind one stable platform you can always return to. One vertical wall that gives you control of spacing, and one line that, if crossed, commits you deeper than you intended. With those anchors, the room stops being a sketchy unknown and becomes a playground with rules. When you branch routes, use a breadcrumb rule that keeps momentum without losing orientation. Pick a direction, explore 3 rooms deep, then leave a mental marker. An unopened chest, a suspicious lift, a locked gate, and bounce back to your last fork. That keeps your mental map fresh and avoids the classic spiral where you know you've missed something but can't recall where the decision happened. If you like optimizing, borrow a bit from speedrunners without turning your playthrough into a job. Establish light route heuristics you can apply on the fly. Down and away often hides progression. Up and behind often hides upgrades. Loops that reconnect to earlier benches or safe rooms are almost always worth opening immediately. These aren't iron laws, but they keep your search decisive. When you stumble into a late game door early, resist the sunk cost impulse. Tag it mentally, accept the future return, and move on. Efficiency is rarely about knowing the exact intended path. It's about not fighting the structure the game is already offering. Your practice time will pay more if you design the session, not just the attempt. Start cold with an easy movement circuit in a known area to sync inputs and vision. Then pick a single target, one boss, one tricky platform line, one enemy mix, and set a cap on attempts before you change focus. End with something you can execute cleanly to leave your hands with the right memory. That sandwich of warm-up, deliberate focus, and confidence building closer makes the improvement curve smoother, especially if you play late at night when decision fatigue is real. On days when you're short on time, run a micro session, 2 focused attempts where success is defined as seeing and naming a new mechanic correctly, not as winning. Progress is compound interest. Small, clean deposits matter. When it comes to mistakes, treat them as labels you can sort, not as personal failures. After a handful of deaths, ask a single categorization question. Was it timing, spacing, or attention? Timing mistakes often show up as pressing good buttons at bad speeds. Fix them by slowing the rhythm mentally and counting a beat before you re-engage. Spacing mistakes show up as getting clipped by edges of attacks or missing short hops. Fix them by anchoring your fights around clear landmarks in the room so you stop drifting. Attention mistakes are the sneaky ones. Tunnel vision on a low health foe while a new hazard enters. Fix them by zooming your gaze out between exchanges and checking the periphery on purpose. Naming the bucket gives your brain a direction for the next pull. You're not just playing better, you're addressing the right variable. Cognitive load management is the invisible performance enhancer. If a fight feels overwhelming, do not lower your ambition. Lower your simultaneous tasks. Pick one constraint to hold perfectly for the next 2 attempts. Never take damage on environmental hazards. Always maintain a clean escape lane, or always break line of sight after a 2-hit commit. You will still take hits elsewhere, but your mind is now carrying 1 plate instead of 5. As that constraint becomes automatic, add the next. This stacking approach turns chaos into layers you can digest, and it prevents the classic burnout that comes from demanding perfection across all fronts too soon. Input fail matters, but not because of exotic settings. Comfort equals consistency. If you find yourself death gripping the controller, do one thing between attempts. Unclench deliberately, shake the hands, then rest your shoulders down before the reload. That tiny reset cuts accidental over inputs more than any sensitivity tweak. Pay attention to dead zones and travel distance on whatever you use. You want just enough firmness that you don't trigger actions by brushing the stick or pad during frantic repositioning. If the game offers options to reduce screen shake or tweak rumble, consider dialing them back during boss practice. Too much haptic noise can drown out the cues you're trying to learn. Tilt management is a skill, not a personality trait. Use a 2-loss rule. 2 back-to-back attempts that end earlier than the previous best are your signal to swap target or take a real break. In a long session, insert a palette cleanser, a short exploration loop, a return to an earlier area to grab a small upgrade, or even a simple traversal challenge you know you can nail. You're not running away from difficulty. You're protecting the quality of your learning. The fastest way to get good is to spend more minutes in high-quality attempts and fewer in frustrated flailing. As your execution firms up, start thinking in triggers. Instead of reacting to everything, pre-decide if X then Y rules that fit the fight you're learning. If a boss jumps from mid-screen, you dash under. If it jumps from close, you micro-step back and punish the land. If a room spawns adds after a roar, you abandon the boss for 2 beats and clear the space before re-engaging. These small automations free up bandwidth for the few genuinely novel moments where you need to improvise. The beauty of this approach is that it scales. You carry the habit to other areas and other games without clinging to one specific pattern. Finally, keep your eyes on the transferable win. The reason games like Silksong feel so good at mastery is that they reward clean thinking as much as fast hands. When you build a habit of naming enemy archetypes, mapping rooms by anchors, paying debts cheaply and cashing gifts consistently, and designing your sessions with intent, you're building skills that survive patch notes and new content. You become the kind of player who doesn't T-panic when a fight changes tempo or a route takes an unexpected detour. You don't need every trick unlocked to feel strong. You need a process that holds under pressure. Treat the game as a demanding partner that keeps raising the level exactly as fast as you can climb. That's not romantic language. It's a practical model for steady improvement. You read the screen like a designer, you route like a strategist, and you refine like an athlete. Do that, and 8 minutes from now, you want to just be excited to play. You will have a plan you can actually use.